Okay, it is Tuesday, April the 5th, 2022, and welcome to the open house in week one of Contemporary Issues in Criminal Justice. My name is Richard Wright, and some of you know me already from previous classes, and I'll be your instructor for the next 5.5 weeks, and we'll be talking about various topics, various issues of concern that involve criminal justice today, of which there are quite a few things that are involved here. So I'm going to today just spend time giving you my expectations for the course, and we will get started. So let me start out by sharing my screen. Okay, and so now you can see the home page, and you see the title of the course, Contemporary Issues in Criminal Justice. It's a capstone course. And when it says capstone, what that really means is that this is a course that is actually a kind of a survey of what some of the classes and some of the issues that you have studied in previous classes. And usually people that are taking this class are getting ready to graduate with their associate's degree, hoping that I'll see many of you in the bachelor program as well. And so I'm going to go ahead and get started sharing this information with you. So first of all, you can see in here, let's click on messages to see, okay, I have one student, Barbara Terrell, um, that mentioned she's looking forward to taking the course. So if you want to send messages to me, the messages will show up here, and then I will respond accordingly. Okay, let's go to the grade book. So this is the grade book, and it shows that the assignments all the way through, and then the discussion post is one. If you go through it and you notice, you will see number one, as I go through it, there they are. There is no test, there's no quiz, but there is a lot of writing each week. There'll be a written assignment and a discussion post. And I will go over that each week to let you know what the expectations are for the assignment and the due dates and all of those kinds of things as well. So let's take a look at the discussions. Again, there's a discussion about rights. We'll talk about that. And then each week, you see there's a discussion post. Down here is what we call the course chat. If you click on this, you will see information where one of the students has responded. Daisy Kane, Casey Dane, sorry about that, said that backwards. And she tells a little bit about herself. Okay. And I was growing up, ended up. All right. Relationship. So Casey Dane. Um, I know that Casey is a neutral name, so I'm presuming, I think Casey, I remember, is a female, but it could be a male, but I think it is a female. And then this is my information. This shows you me as my wife, it's my son Julian, my daughter Jillian. Now these pictures are a little older. He's going to be 22 coming up Sunday. She's 22, she'll be 23 later. This one here will be 26 in May. This one will be 14 in on the 15th of this month, April 15th. So that's Jillian. So I got two Julias, I got a Julian, I got a Jillian, and then there's a Richard Jr. and me. Both of these guys are taller than me. This one here is 6'2", and he's 6'3". This tells you a little bit about me. This is a great day in my life when I graduated from Northwestern University School of Law with my law degree in hand. And this is a mnemonic that I share with my students. This is how I succeeded. I did this. I did these things. And they helped me to achieve. Notice it spells lawyers though, but it could be anything that you want to be. But you're still going to have to do all of these elements if you're going to be successful in whatever endeavor you head towards. This is my email address. Notice it doesn't have a 2 here, so you could send it to me without the 2, and it'll go to my email, as well as my personal email. And then this is the phone number that you can call or text. That's the number that you'll see, 630-660-8480. This is my office number, which people will hardly be using. All right, I see I'm joined by Joshua. I know him from another class. I don't know if he can hear me or not. If you can hear me, type in the chat box yes. But okay, because he won't even hear anything I'm saying if he has an activated audio. Okay, so this is the chat. Okay, let's go out of that. Then let's take a look at the calendar. In the calendar, I like to use the monthly version, and it shows you that the course began yesterday. Your initial post is due tonight by 11:59 p.m. Central Standard Time. This is a lecture that will take place roughly an hour and a half for this class tonight. Normally it will be 1 hour. And then there's the discussion reply post that's due on the 9th. And then the 10th, your written assignment, and then your live classroom phrase or lecture or a word that I will give you. You will see that the course runs all the way until the 10th. The 10th of May is when it ends. Notice if you look up here, you'll see 2 lectures. You'll see week 5 lecture. This is a ways away, but I'm just showing you anyway. And then week 6 lecture will take place on the 6th as opposed to Tuesday night. And the reason why, because it wouldn't make sense to give you a lecture on the 10th because class ends. So I'll be giving to you instead there. But the course absolutely ends on the 10th of May. All right, remember that. Let's go back to this. All right, now if you come down here, here's where you can find some books. You find your books, you know that already. But here's your library resources. This is where you can find things like the online library, and you can chat with a librarian, which will probably pop up in a minute in the corner since I'm on it. But all areas you can look at. You can click on APA, Grammarly, and guides. Notice this. When we talk about guides, we click on this. It takes you to the list of guides. Click on that. That takes you to the School of Justice Studies guide, and it helps you with research, writing help, APA, how to navigate Blackboard Ultra, tutoring if you need it. See, there we go, that library chat I told you. It would pop up whenever you're on that on this, it'll automatically pop up in certain hours. You can have a chat with the librarian. That's Dennis Johnson, who's our criminal justice librarian. Okay, and then you can again schedule an appointment, and you deal with various topics as well. And there you go, it tells you too about the chat hours, Monday through Thursday to 8 p.m. Central. So that means that and it's offline on Fridays and Saturdays and Sundays. It's 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. Central. So your chats are Monday through Thursday, and then you can do Sunday chats, okay, to get some help if you have questions regarding anything. You can also set up a tutoring appointment as well. So this is a guide that's available to help you as well. Then there's a Grammarly account. Everyone should be aware of the fact that you have a Grammarly account. You sign up using your student email, and you want to set that up because you want to run all of your papers, listen to me, before you submit them to me through Grammarly. And check the box that says plagiarism in there at that time, and it'll tell you how many percentages of tell you how much material, the percentage that you have from your research. All right, so you want to make sure that you do that. Very important. All right, so I see student has left. Just remember, in order to hear the lecture, you have to click on your audio to hear it. All right. So that's the online library. Transferable skills, which I touch on briefly. You want to learn more about transferable skills. You can go down each of these, from communication to critical thinking, digital fluency, diversity and teamwork, okay, ethics and diversity, equity and inclusion, ethics and professional responsibility, and information literacy. So you can learn more about that by clicking on each of these as well. Okay. So now the next thing I want to show you is the syllabus. And here it is. And on the syllabus, it has my name, and it reminds you of my office hours, which many of you should be familiar with by now. You can text me, call me, or email me any hour of the day except the 25th hour. I do prefer texts or phone calls. Emails are okay, but the reason why I say that, if you have an issue, it'll be easier for me to respond to you, and I'll get it quicker, because on my phone, it actually will show me when you text me or call me. If I'm not available, I will respond very quickly. And it says any hour except the 25th hour. You don't have to send me a message or call me late at night and apologize for calling me so late. Don't worry about that. You can even call me Sundays. I'm a pastor, as you should know, and I'm in church. But even if you do text me or call me, I'll get the message, and I'll either talk to you before church or after church. The point of the matter is that I'm available. Now, never ever find yourself feeling that, well, I needed a question about my grade. You can reach me through this method I told you. And then what we can do, if you don't get clarification and understand, I can set up a session where you come to a WebEx session that'll be just you and me. And then we will go over what you need to know. So I'm available to do that, but it's by appointment. We need to set that up. So one thing that I will not be guilty of is not responding to you. By the way, just for your information, the rule for the school for responding to emails is 48 hours. That's 2 days. I don't generally do that. Sometimes the emails might take longer because the system is kind of not doesn't work very well, and that sometimes with that system, I do not get the message. So, okay, I see Josh is back. You got the sound, got it all set up. I remember you, Josh, from previous class. It's good to see you again. All right. So you want to make sure that you uh, do use this number to reach me. This is the email. Again, like I said, this goes into the course mail that I showed earlier. This is a reminder to you that you're required to conduct research for all the papers that you do, and that you lose 2 points for failure to conduct research for all written assignments. And all should be in APA format. All should be APA formatted. You hear me? Citations in the body, and not a citation, citations throughout the body, and references at the end. Be reminded that citations in the body provide support to the statements that you include in your papers. Cite sources. Don't say, well, I did this from all my own. No, even if you have your own, you still get credible sources to support your statements as well. I do that, and I'm a professional. A cover sheet should oh, okay. All right. I got you. I think I saw that there. I knew I saw something that uh let's see, what did you say? Oh yeah. You were trying to enter in through the browser and wasn't having audio. Had to use the app instead. Okay. Again, good to see you. I knew something was up, but I always remember my students from my previous classes. And as soon as I saw that, I said, oh, I remember him. So anyway, so you know about this rule here because I've done it before. I'm very, very hands-on when it comes to my students. But, you know, you got to do your part. You got to let me know that you have an issue. All right, just going on down. Be sure, be sure that you do not cite the textbook for any assignments in this course. It's a trick. Do you know why? Well, the answer is very simply, there is no textbook for this course. This is a survey course. This is a capstone course. And we will be demonstrating how well you research and find the materials using credible sources, using information literacy very well, so that you don't use sources like Wikipedia, which you know never to use because you'll get zapped for that. And the reason why we do that is not to be nasty, but because Wikipedia is a word-based program, and because it's a word-based program, anyone can change it. I have seen it. I went and looked at it. I added some stuff on some things that I wanted added, not to somebody else's, but some stuff about myself that I saw on Wikipedia. And you can do that very easily. All right, so it's not very credible. All right, discussion assignments should not be very brief. They should not be um, you did a good job. I agree. I disagree. No. Give me some detailed response, thoughtful. I want some critical thinking in there. I don't necessarily worry about citations and references, even though I do appreciate them, because that's a good habit to develop anyway. And then respond to your classmates' posts, as I said, according to the schedule. That you'll hear me repeat again, that your initial post is due on Tuesdays, which is tonight, and your reply post due Saturdays. Okay, except when we get to the last week, and you know why I'm saying that, but you'll know when we get back there. Okay. Remember, APA is the style that we use in this school. Every professor should be enforcing APA. You know that I enforce it. Because the reason why I do that is because it prepares you as a professional uh, to deal with um, citations and sources. It also establishes ethical practices, giving credit for where you got the information from. It minimizes plagiarism as well. And so APA 7th edition is what we use, and I'll have sources available to help you. So your course is going to consist of readings, but your schedule is readings are based on what's in the module and your written assignments. Okay. Notice the percentage for written assignments, 64%, discussions, 29%. So you got to participate in discussions as well. Never ask me how to get a C or below in my class. I don't answer that question. I work on A, B students. My role is to get you to the honor roll and dean's list, and I point you in that direction. You have to do the work, and I promise you, if you follow the rubrics, if you pay attention to what I say in the lecture, and finally, if you read very carefully what's in the module, if you have conflicts or questions with it, you know how to reach me. I already shared that. Text me or call me. You can email me, but you know, the reason why I don't like email so much is you can email back and forth and you can lose communication easily. Texting is the next best thing to talking to someone. And that's why I, I've had students that I spent, and it takes more time to respond to an email than to a text or talk to someone. I think you would all agree with me on that point. So I'm an AB professor, okay? That's what I got. That's how I was successful. All right. Notice what I said. Um, I respond to messages, calls within 48 hours. And I have had students that say, "Oh, I didn't get a call or message back for until a couple of days later." That's because that's when it is. I don't generally do that though. I respond very quickly for two reasons. I don't like my phone filled with messages. I don't like to see things build up. I just don't. All right. But please, I encourage you, email is your last resort because of the fact that usually I can respond to you faster and in a more efficient way through calls and emails. I encourage that all the way through. If you need special accommodations, you go through this. The transferable skills, I'm just going to hit them and keep moving, are uh, communication. We want written and oral communication to be very good. You want to be proficient in each of these skills. Critical thinking, essential in your writing, essential in your writing, demonstrating that you have analytical skills, demonstrating that you have evaluated the question and you've provided um, information not just to fill a page, but that expresses uh, dealing with the issues or questions that are called for in the assignment. Good habit to develop. I'm naturally one because I went to law school and I was trained under what they call the Socratic method. And what that means is that a series of questions were given to me before I got an answer, and then I actually came up with the answer um, from those questions, and the answers I dialogue back with my instructors. Digital fluency. Everything's digital now. When I was came out of law school, 1978, there was no digital. Now everything's digital. Your textbooks, which is good. Your classes, man, I had to physically be in class. I like that. But the only problem is that you had to physically travel to the building. I can't do that with you guys here because number one, you guys are all over the country, and it would not work very well. And then the key thing is that you can you can actually listen to the lecture if you're not able to make it, because I provide recordings for you. And so you got to be able to use the system. You got to be able to navigate Blackboard, Excel, pretty much not so much Excel in our courses, but more Word documents, and sometimes occasionally PowerPoints. But the point of the matter is that you want to make sure that you appreciate digital fluency. When you get to be a professional, you're going to use it all the time. Diversity. You're going to deal with people from all walks of life, backgrounds, sexual preferences, religious beliefs, cultures. Um, but one thing in common that all of these diverse people have is red blood. I know technically it's blue. That's what a nurse told me. But when I see it and it hits the air, it automatically turns red. So all of these individuals that you deal with, regardless of how or where they came from, how they think, their blood is red. And so you need to be able to appreciate that. In fact, our school is committed to diversity and inclusion. So not only do we want diversity, but we want to include parties, give them a seat at the table so they can have something to say. But diversity in itself is so important because you'll be in your careers working with individuals from various backgrounds, cultures, different languages, and abilities to communicate. Um, Teamwork, you'll be working in teams. You'll be working in teams in this course because you'll be dealing with, we don't have team projects, but what we do have is discussion posts, and you reply and respond to each other's discussion posts. Ethics, you must be an ethical, and, and I always say in my classes, ethical, professional, and educated. That's what my goal is, to turn out students who are ethical, professional, and educated. Student once said, I grade my students like they're professionals. Yes, I do, because I give you information so that you complete. And the definition of professional is performing according to the standards of the position you're in. The standard of a student is to follow the instructions that are given in the written assignments, both in the rubric and also given in the modules, and what's added to by me as the lecturer to clarify some things. But professional responsibility also involves different codes of conduct. If you're a lawyer, you have a canon of ethics. If you're law enforcement, you have the same thing. And then your various departments have codes that they give you, and processes that you must follow to be in compliance with performing your job. Information literacy. I already talked about that, not using unreliable sources like Wikipedia, sources that aren't very good. And then it talks about diversity, equity, and inclusion um, as an additional transferable skill that's also included. I already mentioned that. Equity. Now, what that means, what does equity mean? Equity means fairness. That means parity, um, appreciating the variations of things. You know, we learn from each other. We learn from different races. We learn from different sexes, cultures, religions, and we need to understand and respect that that is a right that we have. When we should be happy in this country that we can do a lot of things. I know you're aware of what's happening over in Ukraine, and I'm really uh, upset with what's happening over there. I watch quite a bit of that, and I see things that are happening, like the Ukraine ladies being raped, children seeing their moms raped in front of them, uh, uh, killing people, tying them up, killing them execution style, taking their property and stuff like that. This is absolutely ludicrous because they want to control the people. The people have a right to be free, and they're definitely fighting for it. And hopefully our country will continue to provide support for those individuals, because we are, as according to what Constance said, the land of the free, the home of the brave. Well, I can tell you this, free is not always absolute, but well, guess what? There are many things that we can do that those people cannot do, and they're fighting for that. And we stand for that in this country, so people can do what they want to do and follow the law and things of that nature. And so all of the courses that you take, you'll have a chance to use these transferable skills. Moving right along, I'm going to talk about the late assignment policy, which everybody should be familiar with, is that it gives you up to 7 days to get your assignments in. So as you know, your written assignments are due generally on Sunday, 11:59 p.m. Central Standard Time. Now, I say that because the last week, that's different. But for each of the first 5 weeks, that is the absolute rule. All right, now, if you submit an assignment on Monday and it's a good assignment from that Sunday you submitted it, from that Sunday which you should have submitted it, you'll get a 90 at the most. And it decreases by 10% each day, 80 by Tuesday, 70 by Wednesday, 60 by Thursday, 50 by Friday. So by Friday, you will have failed because you'll have lost 50% of the grade, okay? So, and you're on the border when you lose 40% of the grade. That'll be a D. You don't want that either. So the key thing is that there's students say, oh, I got it within 7 days. Well, that's the way it is. You have a problem. Now, let me put a pin in this for a moment to remind you that there's a way to get around that. It says in the third line, and I'm going to go back to the second one in a minute, instructors may waive the late penalty or time frame in the case of extenuating circumstances. That should be in quotes, because extenuating circumstances is a factor that is determined by not your dean, not the president of the university, not the board of directors, not your advisor, but me. So that's why I said, let me know. I'm the most important person that you should communicate with concerning issues of your course. And I should be the first line. And if I can't help you, then I can guide you to the place. But extenuating circumstances is determined on a case-by-case basis. Many of you haven't been in my classes, already know some, and I won't elaborate on them. I'll just leave it at the case-by-case basis. I will say this, I'm very liberal about doing that. Everybody knows that. I'm very fair about it. Now, regarding discussions, as I already said earlier, your initial post is due Tuesday. Your reply post is due Saturday. Each day that you're late with your initial post, you will lose 1 point. So let's say, for example, you submit your initial post on Saturday. Then you're going to lose points from Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So you got 4 points you lose, okay? Because it was due that Tuesday. Now, if you do not submit a reply post by Saturday, 11:59 p.m. Central Standard, I allow you, this is a rule that I have, I allow you to submit a reply post Sunday by 11:59 p.m. Central Standard Time, but that's only if you submit an initial post before the end of the discussion forum. That's the key. So if you submit both your initial post and reply post that Sunday, all deals are off. I have had students ask me if I can extend it. I cannot do that because the school makes it quite clear. If you read this, it says discussion posts made after the due date for discussion posts in the current week module will not be accepted. So the due date that they're talking about is Saturday. Okay, that's what they mean when they say that. So that doesn't mean that if you miss Tuesday and you submit it Wednesday, no, because that wouldn't make sense. So in the context of what they're saying, they're referring to the reply post. Make that clear with you. All right. I do encourage students to reply to more than one post. It makes the discussion forum more interesting. But demonstrate some critical thinking in your discussion posts. You're not graded on, I read them. You're not graded on whether I agree or disagree with what you say in a discussion post, but you are graded on whether or not it's demonstrating some critical thinking. These other things in here disregard. In some cases, labs and exams, well, we don't have labs or exams. In no circumstances, listen to this, may a student submit work after the last day of the term unless an incomplete grade has been requested, not only requested and granted. Who grants it? I do. There I go again. You got to do it with me. Don't come to me in weeks 6 or near the end of week 5 and say, could I get um, an incomplete so I can complete the earlier modules? No, we're not going to do that. We're not doing that because you'll hear me say at the end of week 3 that I'm not going to accept any of those assignments unless there are some extenuating circumstances. All right. So here's your incomplete policy situation. Academic integrity policy, I'll let you read that on your own, but it's very important that you become familiar with that. And that's your syllabus. Your syllabus is an agreement that we have as with you guys. Let's look at the announcements. So you've had a chance to look at these already because all of them are available to you and will remain. The writing process, you can go through that and it tells you the steps, okay, to if you need a tutor, and you can submit to the writing lab. By the way, submitting an assignment to the writing lab is not extenuating circumstances. No, you can mess up by submitting it too late. Adversity is the springboard to success. You all pretty much know this. This is about me, and it's not required, but if you click on this link, it will take you to this recording that I have that you'll see me talking, and it lasts about a little over an hour, and it provides information about that, just some of the adversity I went through. I'm doing that to encourage you so that you understand is that, Professor, you don't understand. Yes, I do. Look at my video. By the way, I'm currently operating under adversity right now because my mom passed away suddenly on the 18th. I'm sorry, the 16th of March, and it's a real challenge. Some of you guys know my mother because she was in television for years on WGN in Chicago. Her name was Mary D. And so I'm dealing with that now. We got some things going on with her that we're doing, but it was all unexpected. Yep, she was 85 though. But she had adversity in her life. If you ever want to learn about her adversity, and you'll see something about me in it, there's this book here, and it's called Life Lessons on Faith, Forgiveness, and Grace. And that's her. She came to Rasmussen, the Romeoville campus, several times in let's see, 2014, I should say, and spoke. She was also a commencement speaker for, but this book talks about her adversity in life. So I'm familiar with adversity. It's a part of my life, but I use this to say to my students, let's succeed. You see, I'm wearing this shirt. It says Northwestern University School of Law. It just says Northwestern Law on it. That's where I went to law school. Not an easy school to get in, not an easy school to get out of unless you fail it. But I know my stuff, and they prepared me well. So, but I had some adversity while I was there. I talk about that in this. All right. APA assistance, again, not to beat a dead horse. Well, it's not a dead horse, but to beat a horse. We encourage you to utilize the resources that are in that library I showed you, but I also provide them in the classroom for you. Very important, extremely important. We use the 7th edition. And if you need APA tutoring, um, the students can get help from our peer tutors. There are Noodle tools um, to help you generate APA style references. By the way, if you cite a court case, one of the things I will tell you up front, please properly cite the cases according to the official court case. Usually you're dealing with Supreme Court cases. So it starts with a number, and then it has US, and then it has a number, and then in parentheses, it has the year that that case was handed down or issued. That's a proper citation. Of course, the name goes before it, like Marbury versus Madison or Miranda versus Arizona, the number US, which is the number of the volume that you find it in. The US is the publication, and then the second part is the first page of it, and then in parentheses, the year that the decision's handed down. Please, you have to do that at least at the beginning of your paper the first time you cite it. You don't have to do it every time, which is okay. But APA is very much going to be something that I'm on the watch out for. Announcement, welcome one. I'm not going to spend time on this because it speaks for itself. It just, the one thing is that those of you who are here know that the lecture is taking place now till 8:30. Weeks 2, 3, 4, and 5 will be every Tuesday, beginning on the 12th. That's next Tuesday. And then week 6 lecture will take place, as I said on the calendar earlier, Friday, May 6th. Yeah, I know I don't like to do lectures on Fridays, but that is the way I have to do that one there. Okay. All right. That's the welcome announcement. The Justice Studies Guide, I do want to share this with you, which you saw that already, but here's another place that you can find the Justice Studies Guide that I showed you a few minutes ago. So I have it right there so you don't have to go there to get it. You can get it right here. Okay. All right. I don't know why that didn't come out that way. Okay, so here's the announcement. Each week you'll see one of these. Let's move this away. So for this week, we're going to deal with the historical foundations of criminal justice, dealing with the different goals of criminal justice, sources of law, and the 3 components of criminal justice. And tells you when the lecture is. It tells you the discussion assignment rights, which we'll talk about in a few minutes. And again, that's due tonight, your initial post, and your reply post is due Saturday. Finally, the written assignment, 4th and 5th Amendment, which we'll be talking about during the course of this 5.5 weeks. The 4th Amendment, just to say, it has to do with search and seizure. It is actually one of the most important amendments that criminal justice individuals have to deal with, especially law enforcement and somewhat for corrections and others. But it is it is the essence of protecting the rights in terms of warrants and when exceptions to obtaining warrants exist, to the good old stop and frisk, which we'll elaborate on later. And the Fifth Amendment has to do with the right to self-incrimination. You don't have to testify against yourself. You have the right to remain silent. You know where that came from, the good old Miranda case. And that's the Fifth Amendment, as well as there are other things, but we'll be providing that information. Those assignments are due, that assignment is due Sunday. And then this reminds you about what's happening right now. Encourage you to start strong and to finish and all in between, actually. And my motto, Adversity Springboard to Success, I already told you where you could find that information. Okay. I just want to check something because I think I'm right, but let me double check it. I'm thinking out loud. Let's go to May. Yeah, the live lecture for week 6. Okay, that's all I wanted to see. Let's go back to. Okay, so now I've covered everything. Again, let's get to this week. And let's start by talking about the written assignment that's due. By the way, it tells you the due date right there, and it also tells you it. I'll go back to. Tells you right there the due date. Every assignment tells you the due date. Okay. The discussion is due the 9th, and that's not the initial post, that's the reply post. All right. So let's get back to the assignment now. So you're going to take this paragraph and you're going to read it. Explain the crime control and due process models of justice, as well as the Fourth and Fifth Amendments that provide rights to offenders during questioning. Using the lecture for this model, specifically the timeline of the American criminal justice system, researching at least 2 additional articles, illustrate the steps that you take as the arresting officer to ensure that the rights are protected. And it's going to be a 750 to 1,000 word in length. I will be checking the word count with APA formatted, as I said earlier. Okay, very important. Here's the rubric that clarifies it. Notice the rubric. I do not teach from emerging, but if you don't have citations or references, you're going to end up over here. This is what you're going to end up with. And that's failing. You don't want that. 55% of the grade. You want to be in this column. So study this column and apply it for crime control and due process models. Clear and comprehensive. Okay, models, as well as the Fourth and the Fifth Amendment. Steps the arresting officers should take. Be sure you provide credible sources. And then clear and comprehensive discussion of the limitations. Now, be aware that it's APA. And if you don't do APA, you're going to end up over here. Because without APA being satisfied, it's unclear. That's the way I interpret it. It's unclear. Because the purpose for citations and references, as you're going to see in just a few minutes, is to provide support for you. Okay, you know what? I missed something here. I thought I had it in here. Thought I had it in my announcements. I left it out, but I'm going to go back and get it. Okay, before I do the assignments, I want to go back and I want to play. I want you to hear this. I knew it was something that was missing in announcements. Okay, let's go back. And let's see. Let's go to the, where is it? Let's go back to the, I think it's in the guides. Yeah, I think it's in the guides. And School of Justice Studies. Okay, where is it? Okay, it's not there. It's a video that I thought I had in here. I know it's in here. Okay, go back, Richard. Let's see. I think maybe it's in transferable skills. No, it's not in there either. Okay, bear with me while I find it because I thought I had it in the course. Writing guide, new student, Grammarly, tutoring, videos. Let's see. uh, I don't see it. Doggone it. Uh, okay. I know what I'm gonna have to do. Okay, I gotta come back. I gotta come back to it. Share. Okay, I gotta go back and put this in. Give me 1 minute. Bear with me while I get this back. Okay. I'll go into one of my other classes to get it. And then I'll take it and we'll come back. Okay. Okay, now I'm going to take it out of the constitutional law one. Okay, let's go to announcements. Hang in there with me. Okay, here we go. Okay, now let me go back and share this. Oh, what happened to it? That's not what I'm looking for. That's not what I'm looking for. Okay, I want to share. Okay, give me 1 second. I don't see why this is not. Okay, this is what I want. Let's go back to this. And okay, there we go. Okay, now let me go back and share. There we go. Okay, now I got it. All right. Whew. Okay, here's what I wanted to show you. Okay, this video right here. So we're gonna take a few minutes and go over this. It's gonna be closed caption. Speakers, yeah. Oops, I already did that. Get that out there. Okay. Oh, English. Oh, okay, here we go. Finally.
What is academic integrity? Academic integrity is making decisions in your academic life in terms of honesty, trust, fairness, responsibility, and respect. This means being honest in the work you do while respecting the work that others do. So what is cheating? Cheating is destroying information by any means other than some examples of cheating are asking fellow students for answers or copying answers from devices, materials, purchasing papers from websites or other sources, copying classmates, assisting classmates, conduct other violations as academic that can be found in all courses. Always ask your professor if it's okay to use notes during the test or to work together with classmates on an assignment. Now let's talk about plagiarism. Plagiarism means using another individual's work without giving them credit or taking another person's work. Some examples of plagiarism are turning in an assignment that someone else wrote, copying words or ideas from someone else, skipping a line to use course text from the internet resource or other material without giving the original, failing to put quoted works in quotation marks, using someone else's ideas in your essays, but changing a few can sound like the words are your own. Plagiarism is not just about written words and ideas. It's possible to utilize images as well. So how can you avoid plagiarism? Cite your sources, both in the body of your paper as in-text citations and on your references page. Whenever you want to use words, images, video, or ideas that were created by another person, you should cite that person appropriately as the source of that information.
But how does academic integrity relate to the work world? Just a college thing?
No. Integrity in the workplace starts with good practices and skills built while you are a student. Would you turn in a project document to your manager as your own and someone else read it? Not if you want to keep your job. Individuals can be reprimanded or fired from your job for reasons. Following academic integrity guidelines while you are in school builds those skills and ethical practices that carry through to.
Okay, I understand how they're connected, but what do I do if I need more help?
If you have questions on academic integrity policy, consult your course syllabus, talk with your instructor or dean. If you need assistance in repeating citation style or how to avoid plagiarism, contact the Rasmussen Library team for a live chat or schedule a research appointment on our library website or through the resources tab. If you would like APA tutoring, schedule an appointment with one of our PA tutors.
Okay. Okay, that was my little goof up. Normally I have one of the announcements, and I'll fix that and put that in there later. So I'm going to get you back to the proper course. That's constitutional law. That's where we found that one. So let's get back to this one. There we go. And get back here. So I wanted to make sure that you understand the reasons why we deal with citations in the body and references at the end. Like I said, I'll add that announcement over here too. I usually do it at the beginning of the course. All right, so any questions about the written assignment? If so, type in the chat box that you have questions, and I'll be happy to address them right now. Okay, I see none said. So if you do, you know what to do, reach out to me. The discussion assignment is dealing with rights, and you use this scenario, and then you answer these two questions. If you're a defense attorney, what arguments would you make to have the confession excluded? If you were the judge, would you permit the confession to be used in evidence at trial? All right, so that's for your initial post. And your response post replied to another student's post and so forth. All right. So already, Josh, I already see yours right there. Okay. So be aware though that you will not see anybody's post until you put one in also. All right. So that's the discussion assignment. Your live recording right here is where you are right now. So after this, I will be taking this out and putting the link in for the recording that will be made after we complete this session. And then your live classroom phrase, that's your other assignment that you can give, and you know how to do that. You put that in the Dropbox, and then it will tell me, and then you have the appropriate one and the appropriate time, and you have until Sunday to do it. Then you will have that in. All right, so now with the time that we have left, I want to talk about the different goals of the justice studies, starting from the 30s and all the way through dealing with patrol cars, police riding around in patrol cars, going through the civil rights era. This is just a little history of it, dealing with the approach where police officers at one time walk beats, but they don't do that much anymore. And so we now deal with what we call due process, the due process era, where you have rights that are provided under the Constitution. And as a result of that, police are bound by those rights. And the biggest one is the Fourth Amendment, which deals with search and seizure, and the Fifth Amendment, which has to do with questioning you as individuals while in custody. I'll elaborate on that a little bit more in a minute. So the areas, this is all informational, and you can take time to go through it. I'm not going to spend a lot of time. But what I do want to do is show you before we go to the next section is to show you how these cases start, and usually with arrest, then you're booked, and then you have your first court appearance within 72 hours. And at that time, then usually bail is determined, and then you are arraigned. At the arraignment, and it's very simple, the only things you can say are you plead guilty or not guilty. You can't elaborate on the case. If anybody saw my cousin Benny, he started trying to explain his case, and the judge says that's not where we are. Arraignment is where the defendant has a chance to plead guilty or not guilty, and usually it's not guilty. Then formal charges are issued, and then you go into what we call the discovery stage. In the discovery stage, the defense attorney files a motion for what we call discovery, or in some jurisdictions it's called disclosure. And when that is filed, what you're doing is you're seeking to find out what evidence that the prosecution has to substantiate the charges that they've already provided you, such as police reports, uh, photographs, other video information, any information that they have in their custody. If they have information that is what we call exculpatory, and what I mean by exculpatory, if they have evidence that may be favorable to the defense, that is illegal for them to withhold that information because it would be more favorable to the defense. You, under the due process clause, in order to be able to respond to the charges, discovery gives your attorney the ability to be able to adequately provide a defense. That's pretty much what it's in summary doing. Okay. Now, in cases, there is what we call pretrial um, resolutions or early intervention. Motions are filed where the attorneys will generally, after they get their discovery completed, file what we call motion to suppress. That is to try to have information that was used to be potentially be used at trial to be taken away and can't be used because either the Fourth Amendment, Fifth Amendment, or Sixth Amendment has been violated. So the Fourth Amendment, as I said, has to do with search and seizure. The Fifth with self-incrimination, and then the Sixth Amendment, the right to an attorney and or a speedy trial. So all during this time, hopefully the individual is on bail. If they're in custody, time still continues to run. All right. So after you get to this point, then there could be a series of deals. Now, here's what happens is that you have a pretrial hearing to deal with these issues before trial. And then based upon what you come up with from these pretrial hearings, then a plea deal, which you should be aware of the fact that, now then it talks about depositions. That's usually more of a civil thing, but then discovery, you provide information. But here's my point, is that most cases, about 90% of cases don't get past this point. They're disposed of by plea bargaining. And if you took criminal law, you heard me talk about that. So the 10% that does goes to trial. And the trial allows, first of all, for the lawyer to conduct what we call, depending on whether they picked a bench trial or jury trial. Preference for most of us defense lawyers is jury trials, where we generally have 12 individuals and 2 alternates. And what we do is we go through what we call voir dire at first, which it means literally to seek the truth. And what we do is we question individuals, potential jurors, about their veracity to be neutral. That's pretty much what we're trying to establish. And then we have something called peremptory challenges. These are challenges that each attorney has, and the jurisdictions vary, that allow them to exclude a juror from the trial based upon their beliefs that they wouldn't work. They don't have to elaborate on that. However, peremptory challenges should not be used to stack a jury based on race or to eliminate individuals based on race. That's a no-no. And there are cases that have established that. But let's assume you get past voir dire and you start your trial. And the trial starts out with opening statements from both the prosecution and defense. These opening statements are summaries, not evidence. And in between that time, then there is testimony, exhibits, and other items produced before the trier of fact, whether it's a judge or jury. And then there is, after the conclusion of the case, where both the defense has said they rest and the prosecution said they rest. And usually it's the prosecution who goes first. Why? Because the prosecution has the burden of proof that they must prove before the trier of fact that the defendant is guilty of what charges that have been alleged against them beyond a reasonable doubt. What does that mean, really? It really means that you don't have any question, that if there's any scintilla of question, then that's not beyond a reasonable doubt. And you could be found not guilty and should be. Most defense attorneys, as I was very successful at that with juries, that we try to create doubt. That's our whole job. Create doubt. Create doubt. Sometimes it's bam, or either sometimes it's not, good, not strong doubt, but any amount of doubt, just a little bit. And the jury must find the defendant guilty by a unanimous vote. One vote that says not guilty can result in what we call a hung jury. And with a hung jury, then the defendant is not found guilty or guilty, but then the prosecution has to determine whether they're going to try the individuals again. And most time, that's what happens. All right. So then let's say you're found not guilty, you go home. You're found guilty, then you go to sentencing. And then there's a sentencing hearing that takes place as well. And that's pretty much. Now, these Fourth, Fifth Amendment, you can click on these and you can find out more about it. But I'm just going to show you what those are. What does the Fourth Amendment mean? And it gives some things that it explains. All right, and it shows you searching homes, but just generally, it says that the Fourth Amendment protects people from unreasonable search and seizures. It is not a guarantee against all searches and seizures, but only those that are unreasonable under the law. And the Fourth Amendment spells that out, but case by case, there have been decisions. And it tells you that these are just a few examples right here. Now, one of the things that you should be aware of in the Fourth Amendment is that a warrant should generally be obtained before searching, unless it falls into one of the exceptions. We will not talk about the exceptions right now. We'll talk about them later. But exceptions allow for searching without a warrant. One of the standards that you use to search without a warrant is what we call the Terry stop, based upon the Supreme Court case of Terry versus Ohio, commonly known as the stop and frisk case, where a person can be briefly stopped for questioning and a pat down can be done. You cannot go into the pockets of a person. Weapons, if they're discovered, can be seized, of course, if they're in the pocket. But the purpose for the Terry stop is to determine if the individual has a weapon. And for the protection of the officer, then the pat down takes place. And there's some more of the variations. The Fifth Amendment, again, getting to the landmark case, good old Miranda versus Arizona, which, by the way, you do not, I repeat, you do not implement Miranda warnings until the person is in custody. The way that you know a person is in custody is if they're not free to leave. All right? You don't have to say you're under arrest, but if all the circumstances point to the fact that that person has been deprived of their liberty to go, then before you can question them, then you need to be sure that you issue them the Miranda warnings, and they go something like this. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. You have the right to an attorney. If you cannot, a 411 will be appointed. Do you understand these rights? That's just a summary of it. Most law enforcement agencies have a pre-printed card, which when I was a police officer, we had that and we read it. And the reason why we did that is because it was very important that we satisfy everything, that we, as we say, dot the I's and cross the T's. But Miranda versus Arizona is a decision that I learned a whole lot about because I had a law professor, and those of you who took previous classes from me heard me talk about this, is that Fred Enbow, and he and a guy named John Reed involved themselves in a technique for interrogations and confessions that was utilized in this case and was utilized by departments all over the country. Well, the Supreme Court said those methods violated the Fifth Amendment of the Constitution, and thus came out of it with the Miranda warnings. My professor felt personally maligned because he said that there was nothing wrong with his process, and every time a issue came up dealing with Miranda versus Arizona after that before the Supreme Court, he submitted what we call amici briefs or amicus brief, a friend of the court brief, to help the court to guide it. And his desire was to see Miranda overturned. Professor Enbow passed away without that happening because it's still good law. Okay. And so these are just a few of the cases, but this is a landmark case right here. All right. And then there's kind of like what I just said. See, and it means this: shut your mouth, don't talk, and it will be used against you. And then you have a right to an attorney. You cannot afford one. Then do you understand these rights? You know, by the way, once a person exercises, I don't want to talk, that's it. You got to stop. That's it. Now that's just a summary of it. So, okay. So that's a little bit about that. Let's talk about the sources of law. So the primary top source is the United States Constitution. And in the Constitution, the first 10 amendments are the Bill of Rights, it's called. And they lay out the rights that individuals have. And in our Supreme Court cases, they're interpreted. Now, there are three branches of government. There is the executive branch, which enforces the laws. That's where police come in, their presidents, your mayors, your governors, and I said law enforcement. Then you have the legislative branch. They're the ones on all levels, federal and state, who issue the laws or statutes or codes. And in our United States branch, we have the House of Representatives, which consists of 435 members. And then we have in the Senate 100 members. Each jurisdiction has two. Each state has two. Now, and so they're the ones who pass the laws. Then they pass it to the president, governor, or mayor for signature. If it comes into court, the judicial branch decides whether or not the sentencing of the individuals, that's of course at trial level, and then judges, courts, and the system. So you can appeal a decision all the way up to United States Supreme Court. The United States Supreme Court, as is in the news now, it consists of 9 justices, is 8 associate justices, and 1 chief justice. And right now it's in the news because of the fact that Justice Stephen Breyer is about to retire, And President Joe Biden has proposed the name of someone that I find highly qualified. I talked about this in my constitutional law class, Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson. And um, it's interesting that they say she's soft on crime, yet she's endorsed by the chiefs of police and prosecutors. Doesn't add up. Okay. Anyway, I'm going to get into the discussion on that. But the Supreme Court decides what the law is. There's a famous case called Marbury versus Madison, which basically set out way back, long time ago, that it is the courts that interpret the law, not the legislature. So your due process rights, where you have your rights, your fundamental rights. I talked about the Supreme Court and how it works. Okay. All right. So the Constitution is interpreted. Now, you should be aware that pretty much in criminal law, we pretty much deal with a little bit of the first. We deal with the Second Amendment, which is the right to bear arms. We deal with the Fourth Amendment, which is the bulk of it, as I said, that's search and seizure. And we deal with the Fifth Amendment, which is self-incrimination. We deal with the Sixth Amendment, right to counsel and speedy trial. And finally, the other one is the Eighth Amendment, which deals with cruel and unusual punishment. You deal with things like the death penalty and sentencing and things of that nature. Those are the major ones that we deal with of the 10. Okay. There are three components of the justice system. So the three components consist of the police. That's where you initially have your contact. The courts, that's where you go for the hearings and determination as to whether you're guilty or not guilty. If you're guilty, then you go to corrections. If you're not guilty, you don't need to go to corrections. Notice corrections. You don't need to be corrected if you're found not guilty. Okay. And so the key thing that we established, and you learned this way back about when you took introduction to corrections, that rehabilitation is the ultimate goal that we want to do with all individuals. And these three components work together to ultimately help individuals who are determined that, like I said, they go through the courts and they're found guilty, to get those individuals to a point where they are, how should I say, released back out into the public, but not to be seen again, or not to be what we refer to as recidivists or repeat offenders. Okay. Now, we talk about the standards of law, such as the issuance of warrants, whether they're search warrants or arrest warrants. The probable cause is the basis that we use. And probable cause is kind of an evasive thing, but what it really means is that if there is an arrest of someone, and you're going to collect evidence, you must establish before a judge who will issue a warrant specifying naming the person or naming the place and specificity, and you have to have good reasoning. So the judge determines whether or not there's probable cause. Again, I'll just say this: you cannot arrest or search someone unless there's probable cause, unless it falls into one of the exceptions. And we're not going to get into those in this particular module here. The court and the prosecution. So the prosecution represent the people and bring the charges. Defense attorney provides defense for the individual. We already kind of talked about that and deal with the evidence. And then there's the jury. I already explained how that works as well. And then there, of course, is the person who's in trouble, the defendant. And notice what it says: if the defendant is sentenced to probation, a probation officer is assigned. We dealt with that in Introduction to Corrections. They don't go to jail, but what they do is they're under supervision of that probation officer. But if the defendant is given a jail or prison sentence, then they go to the Department of Corrections, or often referred to as the DOC, to serve their term. Now, they can be released early on what we call parole, or in some jurisdictions, mandatory supervised release, but commonly referred to as parole, which means they still remain in the custody, but they're able to finish their sentence outside of jail. And while in the custody of corrections, there's things that we hope that are provided to those individuals that will help rehabilitate them, such if they have a drug problem, get them drug help, alcohol problems, things of that nature. To provide opportunities for education, because it's been demonstrated quite clearly that the more a person is educated, the less likely they'll be a recidivist, or as we say, recidivate. And so the key thing is corrections, as the sentence says at the bottom, is a rehabilitative function to provide resources to correct the behavior and prevent recidivism. That's what I said there. And these are some information that you can utilize in terms of that. So remember so if somebody say, what are the three components of the system, justice system? Police, courts, and corrections. And if you think out loud into your mind, you think the justice system, how do you enter it? Usually enter it because the police, you've been arrested. And then it then is sent to the court to determine innocence or guilt. If it's guilt, then you go to corrections. If it's not guilty, you go home. Pretty much. That's it. Okay. Any questions? Any questions? You have no questions? It should be one question. Nah, those are good. Those are good. Anything else? You got nothing. Okay. Criminal justice. That covers everything, doesn't it? Criminal justice. Give me that and you get your points for today. All right, Josh. Good seeing you again. You guys, I look forward to seeing you every Tuesday night. Thank you. And hope to see you again next week. And enjoy your week. Get those assignments in, and you know how I roll. And again, as I'll say again, that before I leave, that if you need to reach me, you can text me. Notice the order I put it in. Text me, call me, or email me any hour of the day except the 25th hour of the day. If you need more help, I can set up a session for you where we can be together. So good night, and have a good week. Good night.